we're going to jump right into my third trip to Ohio, which took place in December 2015. The first interview I'm going to share is with Joey Schaefer, who worked with John Carter at Papa John's. Joey met Katelyn through his girlfriend at the time, Michelle Feist. You might remember Michelle from earlier on in the podcast.
Well, it started, me and John at the time were working at Papa John's together.
Okay.
It was probably around 6 o'clock that day where we decided that we wanted to do something that night. We both were kind of up in the air about what was going on. Neither of us really wanted to do anything, but It was like if one came out, we would go out, If he wasn't going anywhere, I wasn't going to go anywhere.
Sure.
So ended up, after I got off my shift, he was off earlier than me. He had decided that he wanted to go over to Carrie's and Travis's.
Okay.
And, they were going to have a fire or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I went home, took a shower, everything, and we headed over there. I can't remember, the exact time we got around.
What time did you get off Papa John's? Do you remember?
I want to say I usually got off 9:30, at most latest 10, on cleaning duties. Let's see. We got over there, I think, probably right around 10:30.
Okay.
John had showed up with a present bag. It was full of of her documents and I guess some of his. I'm not really for sure. Okay. And Travis and Carrie already had a fire going, so started. We already had a fire going. He put those in there, and as he was doing that, it started to rain a little bit, so we went inside.
Wait, what did John say about where he placed Katelyn's documents?
I went to Travis's house. I picked up the bag out of my car. I brought it to the backyard. I set it in the fire pit, and I went inside.
John said he set the bag of documents in the fire pit. If there was a fire going on, it would be in the fire pit. If John set the bag in the fire pit and a fire was going, the bag would have burned. John would not had time to go inside, talk a few minutes, then walk back outside before the bag burned up. It was a plastic bag with papers in it. So John's statement leads me to believe there was no fire going on when he got there. But Joey's statement guides me in the direction that there was a fire burning when Joey got there, and Joey got there before John did. So there was a fire burning when John got there as well. I'm just pointing out contradictions. The facts are the facts, but we are getting two different stories to a simple and small detail. Was there a fire already going or not? And which one of them is telling the truth? Because there's a lot of unanswered questions about that night. And if someone is lying about a small detail, it makes me wonder, what else are they lying about?
We just got inside. We were drinking,
What time did you get to?
Probably around 10:30 somewhere.
What time did John get there?
Just right after me.
Right after you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got there about 10:30.
Right.
John got there right after you. Would you say half an hour, or would you say?
Yeah, not even. Probably about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
It was right in that vicinity. So we're just hanging out. Everything. I think we stayed maybe until about 2. I had to go pick up Alan, who was our manager, but also he's been our friend for a long time. He closed the store, but he didn't have any way to get home. So, I told John, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go pick up Alan, and, I don't know what you plan on doing after this. And he asked me if I wanted to come back to his house and spend the night, play games or whatever, just have a good time. And I told him I'd let him know once I got back to Alan's, but once we got back to Alan's, it was already 3:30 in the morning, and I just ended up hanging out there for a couple minutes and going home, so I didn't end up staying with him. That's pretty much the recollection that I have of that night.
So, are you pretty sure about the times? You got off work about 9, you went home, you showered, you got to Travis's, and you said Travis already had a fire there?
Yeah, they already had a fire going.
So Travis was there, and Carrie was there?
I'm actually not for sure if Travis was there himself, but I know Carrie was there for sure.
Okay. And was there, John, was this a normal night? John was acting fine, no big deal?
Yeah, no, we just hanging out,
All right.
I don't even really think he drank. I don't think he really drinks anyway, so just kind of hanging out,
Right.
smoking or whatever.
But you're pretty sure it was right after 10:30.
Yes, somewhere in that area. I know because I never got off later than 9:30, so it shouldn't have been much later.
Okay, so
Probably
before 11.
Yeah, probably right in that area. No, I'm just trying to think of what we were really doing that night. I think we were just we sat inside while it was raining, and then afterwards we went back outside and hung around the fire.
So you were able to get that on the fire. He was able to.
Yeah, it was before it started raining. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know some people died that night from in the Sugarland concert. Like I think it was Sugarland, and that the stage collapsed.
Oh no, that was that night.
Yeah, it was the same night.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. So, John came, you guys were just hanging out, smoking. You went inside. Did you smoke inside too?
Yeah. It's kind of an all-night thing.
Yeah. And Carrie was there. You're not sure about Travis.
Yeah, I don't even know if he was really living there at that time, but he was probably in and out.
Okay. And so the next day, did you get a phone call from John saying?
No, we went to work. We both worked the same shift the next day, and I showed up to work. We worked, I want to say probably around like an hour or so. It was like somewhere around 4 or 5, maybe just a little bit past that, where he started calling. Or no, as when I showed up, actually, he was already previously there. And he was already saying, like, I'm kind of worried. I keep trying to call Katelyn. She's not answering me. Like, usually if she's even in school or if she's busy, she'll at least send me a text back, and she hasn't been doing that. So it was about an hour later when he ended up trying to call, like, the police or something, I think, I'm not really for sure because I was working at the time. I think he left to go check her house to see if she was there, and there was no one there, but her car was still there. So and then I'm pretty sure that's when he called the police. I don't know.
When did you learn that she was gone?
I think it was later on in that night because the whole, like, 24-hour thing or whatever. It's just the fact of the police getting there and knowing that she wasn't there and that she left all of her personal items there. I do know when John came back to work, he was like, bawling his eyes out. He was hysterical and everything. And that was kind of like it hit me. Like, it had to have been just right after maybe like 5 or 6. I think. I don't even know if he left. I can't really remember.
He went back to work after he called the police and they did all...
No, I think he called the police at work. I think he went to her house and came back and was like, just should I? Is it too early to do it? Or,
Okay. Yeah. And after he left, second time he left, he came back, he left again. And did he come back to work after he left the second time?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. And then as the days went on to weeks and months and that kind of thing, what has been your experience?
Well, me and John, we never really like hung out together. This whole experience kind of brought us close. At the beginning of it, for like the first, I would say month and a half, we hung out basically every night, And I just tried to be there for him, He seemed like he was to be grieving with it, but I don't really know. People take it their own way.
Did you find it weird the way he grieved, or?
Not really, no. I mean, he cried every once in a while, but it wasn't anything too... I tried to kind of stay away from the topic, It's just we didn't really know what was going on. If she was actually gone, or if she just had left up out of nowhere, No one knew what was really going on. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. It was a weird time.
Tell me the times after she was found with you and John communicating.
I think by that time we really stopped hanging out. I'd see him just, here and there, maybe once or twice a month. Seemed like he's been moving on, That was like a big, it was like a closure, type of deal. So it was finally found that she's actually dead, not just missing, or she's not in any type of pain or anything anymore. I don't know. So it's just kind of rough every time you see him,
Do you know anybody in your group there that, I mean, has questionable ethics or that you would suspect of doing this?
Not really, no. I mean, they're still my friends to today.
Yeah.
I would hope that none of them would be.
Okay.
It's hard to think, the being now 4, like going on 5 years going up. It's like unbelievable with how it all began. It just never was in my mind, and it took so long for remains or anything to be found for it to actually just like hit home to me. It was rough.
Yeah, I bet. All right, Joey, anything else? No?
That's what I'm trying to think, because I know I want to help in any way that I possibly can.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. Just him, asking for me to come spend the night and everything afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of kept in the back of my head, that he didn't really do anything. He already had plans with me basically.
Yeah.
And I'm not for sure what the whole timeline with the pinging of the cell phone thing, but I thought that I was pretty sure that it was like midnight that night. So I don't know. I mean,
Katelyn had a stalker?
I'm not really for sure. Like I said, I met her first from my girlfriend at the time, which was Michelle, who told me to call you.
Yeah.
I met her through her. We went to prom together, and that's kind of when I met John.
Okay.
And after that, we kind of just always hung out together, like the both of them, but never really got too in depth with her personal life or to know that she had a stalker or anything. I don't know. I always just try to keep it in the back of my head that it could be anyone,
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. The times aren't matching up here. We will go over these times and introduce the right times during the breakdown later on in this podcast. The next day, Joey said John left to check on Katelyn shortly after he got to work. When he came back, he was, quote, bawling his eyes out. I have confirmed information from someone that saw it firsthand that John was actually crying before he went to his manager to ask if he could leave to check on Katelyn initially. So, John hadn't even been to Katelyn's house yet, and he had only been trying to contact Katelyn for a little over an hour. My question: did John have reason to believe something had happened other than Katelyn just not picking up his calls or calling him back after a little more than an hour? She was at work, and cell phones were not allowed on the floor per policy. Joey mentioned he and John were not close and just started hanging out right after Katelyn went missing, but John asked Joey to spend the night and play video games at his house. Now, I asked the question, if they weren't close at the time, why was an invitation given? Why Joey? Why that night? The night John burned Katelyn's documents, which was the last night Katelyn was seen alive. Is that coincidence? Brad Von Bargen's roommates in 2011 could have a lot of helpful information about Brad's behavior at the time, and I'm going to refer to them as Roommate 1 and Roommate 2. Here's Roommate 1. You said that night Brad was out till about 1 or 2?
That's about when he arrived at home, yes.
He arrived at home about 1 or 2, and you and were in the back playing video games.
Correct.
Okay. And
in the morning, 1 in the morning?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And he came back and he hung out with you for a few minutes. Is that right? How long do you think he hung out with you?
To be honest, I couldn't be 100% sure. Say probably 30 minutes or so before we started packing ourselves up for bed.
Okay. And did you notice anything different about him?
Nope. Just seemed like a same normal night, same Brad as every night.
Okay. And the next day, I guess he got the word a little later on that Katelyn was missing. Can you tell me when you found out she was missing? Was it through Brad, or did you know Katelyn?
I didn't know. I met Katelyn about twice, I think.
Okay.
Maybe only once. I can't remember if it was a different Katelyn the first time I met her.
Okay.
But I met her a couple times. Don't even think I actually had a conversation with her at the time.
All right. And my original question was, the next day, when towards the evening, when he found out she was missing, what occurred then?
Well, what he told me and what I understood was that Katelyn went missing, and they were unsure that there wasn't any signs at the house. I'm not sure when I was told, but I was told that her phone and keys were still there, and they found her dog in the back room, I think they told me. And basically he said that they were investigating, they weren't sure what happened, but that he remembers that him and John, I think that's the name of her fiance, right? Him and John, left her place, and she went inside, and then they both left, and that was the last thing he had saw about her or seen her.
Yeah. They both left at the same time or different time?
I was impression from what Brad told me that they had left at the same time.
Okay. All right. And so you were under that impression. He said that him and John left, meaning it could have been him and then John later, or they...
It definitely could have been.
Yeah.
All I know is that he said that they both left and Katelyn was still there at her house.
Okay. All right, and how was Brad during this time of when Katelyn, goes into a week and she's still missing?
Brad expressed he seemed very worried about her, because I know he's really concerned, because originally what he told me is he went over there because she had contacted him about moving to Colorado soon. Okay. So he wanted to see her before she left. And so he seemed normal when he came home, but afterwards, once we started finding out more, she was missing for longer, he seemed more and more worried.
Okay. Did his behavior, was he, other than being worried and upset about Katelyn being gone, and is there anything weird about the time frame with Brad?
Nothing I really recall, to be honest. For me, because I didn't even know what was going on or that she was in trouble at that time, because I know the first theory I think was out there was that she just kind of took off. But so for me, life kind of seemed to continue on normally. Brad was continuing to go to work normally, because actually we were both working at 5 Seasons, I believe, at that time together. Okay. Before I got a new job, and everything seemed fairly normal as far as I could tell.
Did he talk to you about it a lot?
Not a lot. He brought it up occasionally, like if there was more news, or I also spoke to, sometimes I actually brought it up a couple times, because we also worked with I believe her last name was Rachel, who's a friend of Katelyn's, and she kept very up to date on as well. So occasionally she'd bring it up and we'd talk, and I'd bring it up with Brad as well every once in a while.
Okay. And did Brad have any theories about what happened or anything like that?
Not really. Honestly, I know that he had talked to the cops. He didn't really pose any theories that I recall him telling me. I know, I'd say the biggest thing that he was concerned about at the time was because a lot of people, from my understanding on Facebook, were coming up with a nickname for him, calling him Mr. Saturday Night, as I recall it. Yeah, and saying a lot of different things about him. So I know he was feeling really pressured because of those people saying things about him, and he felt accused. I'll say that he felt like everybody was pointing at him. Yeah, and then I know also the biggest event I remember after that was when, who was it? I can't remember the name. He mentioned it once or twice. Another private investigator contacted him on John's behalf, I believe.
Female?
Yes. Okay. She had contacted him, and I know he told her that he had talked to the police. They told him not to talk to anyone outside of them. So he basically just told her he wasn't going to be able to talk to her.
The police told him that?
Yeah, that's what he told me. He said the police told him not to talk to anybody about it. It's between them. And I know John pressured him a little bit into trying to get him to talk to her, but Brad just stayed firm with what the police had told him to do.
Yeah. Have you known Brad to get mad, angry?
Brad, he has his moments. It's not so much as anger with him. as much as he gets into very depressed states from time to time and can get a little emotional about some things that would seem not something that would mess with a person on the surface, but Brad does get very sad and depressed from time to time.
Okay.
And it would kind of come and go. Normally he seemed a very happy person, but living with him, I definitely found out more that a lot of times he could be very depressed about some things. And
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen him become violent?
I was actually, because of you calling me, I was actually just talking to some people at work, and actually the only time I recall ever knowing Brad to get violent was one time when he had switched to Fairfield High School, and I know somebody approached him, spit on his shoes, and said something offensive to him, and he punched the person in the face. But other than that, I've never seen Brad get violent at all.
Okay. How would you range his sincerity about being extremely upset about Katelyn?
I felt he was pretty sincere, but I mean that is based off because I know how long Brad knew her, and his workings with her and time spent with her. I know he fixed her car a lot. That was mostly the interactions I knew between them. But I would say he was fairly sincere, in my opinion.
I'm going to ask you this, and I need an honest answer from you.
Yes, sir.
Did he ever mention to have a crush, or were they had they ever saw each other, or was there any kind of, I'm just going to use the word, sexual tension between those two?
From my understanding, no.
Okay.
He never voiced anything that he was interested in her or had any sexual or romantic feelings towards Katelyn.
Okay. And the time after she went disappearing, now were you still roommates with him when they found her?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure, I'm not exactly sure on the time frame because I know we moved out. I want to say we were only in the house for about a year.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure we weren't.
Okay.
But we lingered in there a little bit, but it was around a year we were in that house.
Okay. So did anything really change with Brad in the time after she disappeared? I mean, like, that you could tell?
Right. Not really. Like I said before, everything seemed to kind of be the standard normal life.
Mm-hmm.
Brad was continuing to go to work. Still seemed like the same old Brad. We still hung out and everything. Nothing really changed at the time besides him being worried about her. But, that was all beneath the surface. It wasn't something we brought up regularly.
Right. Even in the beginning, you didn't bring it up regularly?
I mean, we discussed in the beginning, and I mean, there wasn't really any theories, but, as new evidence came out and people were, they all talk about everything. So when people were talking about things, he'd bring up, like, when people were talking about the internet and the PI, but other than that, besides something getting brought up around the media and things like that was about the maximum I heard about it.
Okay. All right.
This helps me a lot in understanding Brad's personality and why he reacted to me the way he did when I showed up in North Carolina. Here is roommate number 1 talking about some of Brad's drug use.
From my understanding is he did run into a little drug trouble, and then...
Not marijuana, heroin probably.
Well, that's what I understood. At least the very last event that he told me about that basically sealed that his family wanted him to stay in North Carolina for a while was he was at home, and then one of his friends, I'm not sure who, he never gave me a name, basically talked him into getting some heroin, and he ended up doing it, and he actually had an episode of, I want to say he OD'd basically at his family on Christmas.
Or reaction.
Yeah, exactly. He basically went down, they thought he was dying, so they got him help, and then they sent him to live with his brother and stay in North Carolina.
I met his brother when I went to North Carolina.
Did you?
Brad was okay. He just, did Brad get scared real easy?
He's really emotional. I don't know if I'd say scared as much as he would definitely get nervous and anxious if someone, like you said, asking questions. He'd probably be worried because, like I said, he's felt accused before in this situation.
Dude was white. I've never seen a person go white and shake as much as he did.
Yeah, he definitely, that's one of his big problems. Is just, he has emotional issues is what I'll say. He gets very sad, depressed, and he can get very defensive if he feels like someone's after him.
I'm going to ask you a couple tough questions. In your opinion, do you think Brad had
he had a heroin addiction, right?
As far as I'm aware, yeah, it was kind of off and on. It wasn't a constant that I knew of, but I do know there was a couple moments when, actually one that stands out was me and Ben and his girlfriend at the time, Stephanie, were going up to Hawken Hills. We invited Brad along, told him when we were leaving, wasn't there when we were ready, we left, and I know that night he actually went out. Couldn't tell you the date, but I know that night he went out and got some and spent an exorbitant amount of money on it at the time.
And have you ever seen him when he had used heroin?
To be honest, not that I know of. I've never seen him like shoot up or do it in front of me, so I couldn't tell you. I don't think from his behaviors when I've been around him, I couldn't tell. I would say I haven't seen him on heroin.
Okay.
But with Brad, it's already hard sometimes to tell his emotions.
Do you think Brad's the kind of person that could have hurt Katelyn?
I absolutely don't think he could. Just from knowing Brad, and I've actually thought this to myself ever since you called me, and I've been thinking about it. Honestly, if I thought Brad had hurt Katelyn, I think he would have committed suicide at this point, because it's something I don't feel that he has the character to keep it within him.
So, someone who has known Brad for a very long time, way before they became roommates, says Brad is not capable of concealing Katelyn's death for this long. The roommate said he thought Brad would have committed suicide by now. Well, that sends my mind straight to his overdose. Here's the question that I have. Was Brad's overdose an accident? Or was it on purpose in an attempt to end it all? That's a question I can't answer. Only Brad and God can answer that one. Let's turn to roommate number 2 and see what he has to say about Brad.
So long ago, really, all I can remember from that day is I got home from work and me were playing some video games, and then I can't even remember what time he might have left, but about a half hour after he left, I believe one of our other friends came over. I think it might have been Ben. Okay. The three of us were just hanging around. I worked at a job that had me there at about 5:30 in the morning. Okay. So I think I went to bed around midnight, 1 a.m.
Okay.
I can't really remember much about what time he left, what time he came back, or anything like that.
The days following it, like the next day and, the weeks following that, was there anything, did his behavior change?
When he told me that Katelyn went missing, I noticed he seemed down in the slumps a lot more. I know around that same time he started using heroin again. Okay. He had been off of it, I believe, for a good couple years at that point.
Okay. Did he start before Katelyn went missing or after?
I want to say possibly before, because he was having some money problems as far as like helping us pay rent and everything, and it wasn't too long after that he ended up moving out to move in with his mom because of all of that, and his mom took control of his money and everything. And so it was around that same time, like I was smoking pot around then. Yeah. But I didn't associate myself with people doing hard drugs like that, okay. So I kind of just stayed like, yeah. I would talk to them obviously because we were in the same room and everything, but I tried to avoid as much as I could out of it. I do know he was very upset, and actually before my warehouse closed down back in October, I was with one of my delivery drivers, and he told me that there was new things going on with the case, and I looked it up and all that, and I heard that there was a possible chance of her maybe ODing or something like that. And when I heard that, I don't want to say I believe he may have had something to do with it, but like I said, around the same time he was getting hard into it again, and let's just say that my interest from what I thought might have happened then to what could have happened might have changed from that.
So, what do you mean by that?
When he was first telling me and Alex what was going on, he mentioned something about, I guess she might have had some kind of a stalker back then.
Brad mentioned that to you?
Yeah. And he said he brought it up with her fiance at the time, and the fiance, told him to not bring it up with the police. He was looked into it, this, that, and the other, and I thought that was just kind of weird for all that.
Wait. When after Katelyn went missing, Brad brought up a stalker. Does he know his name?
No, I don't recall any name being mentioned.
And he talked to John Carter, and John Carter told him not to bring it up to the police.
If my memory serves correctly, I'm pretty sure that's what was said. I didn't go too far into it because Brad was pretty distraught about this whole situation and everything. And I'm trying to figure out why he wouldn't want Brad to go to the police. That's why I was a little concerned about that. I can't remember if I might have said something to the detectives that came and talked to me and Alex a couple days after all of that or not. But ever since before I read online what could have possibly happened, I just thought that was a little weird. But then I read that she could have possibly OD'd, and then my whole outlook kind of changed on that.
Do you think Brad may have? I mean, here's. All right. He said he showed up. Katelyn was not talking, which is not her usual bubbly type thing.
Right. I've only met her once before that, and she was always bubbly that whole night.
Yeah. And so they smoked some of their marijuana. They smoked some of his marijuana. How did he use heroin?
I'm not for sure. I know he was high on it in front of me before, but I myself never seen him use it.
Okay. All right. So he was high, but you never seen him inject it, or you don't know what he does with that.
I'm not sure, but for how he was behaving, I knew it wasn't marijuana.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot.
Yeah, my stepdad used it and everything, and I kind of pushed away from that, so I kind of understood the high people can get from it, and it was around that same time because he knew my whole history with my stepdad and everything, and when I noticed he was kind of behaving the same way, I just kind of put some space between us.
Yeah. Do you think he would have introduced Katelyn to that?
I mean, I can't say for sure. I know he's never tried to introduce me or Alex to it, but I also don't know if that's because of my history with my stepdad as well.
Where did he get his dope from?
I don't know. Back then, I met a couple of his dealers, and I know one of them was busted. This was way before anything with Katie happened, and then the other one, I think even might have left the state. I'm not sure.
Do you remember the name Ryan? No.
Possibly. There was one Ryan that came around. I believe he had a Russian girlfriend. Can't remember her last name to this.
Okay. So when you said it kind of changed your perspective that hey, that could have occurred. What went through your head?
That possibly she might have OD'd, and whoever she was with that night might have freaked out and tried to cover it up or make it look like something else happened.
But she was with Brad that night.
Yes, I remember them leaving. I remember Brad saying that I guess her and her fiance was planning on moving out to Colorado, I believe. Okay, so they wanted to get together before they went out there and all that.
Okay. And did he say did he leave before anybody, or did they leave together, or how did he word that?
I'm not very sure, because I believe around that time he was working a job where he was doing second shift. So I mean, at that point he could have left at any point in the time, because I know he would usually stay up between around 3 or 4, since he had worked so late in the day and everything.
Yeah. Okay, and on his off days he just stayed up.
Yeah, there would be days he'd be up for days at a time.
Really?
Yeah.
He kept the job doing that?
Yeah. I know he would never, he wouldn't seem he was high on heroin or anything before he would come in, but he would get home and a couple hours later, that's when I would just stop talking to him. I'd go play a video game or watch TV or something like that.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah.
What would he do?
He's very OCD about things. Like, he would clean things, but it would get to the point where, like, he would start cleaning things that are already clean. It was almost like he was just trying to keep his mind busy, or himself busy, and things like that.
Right. Was his car clean too?
I was never really in his car much.
Okay. What kind of car did he have back then?
I believe it was an Acura, a dark green.
Okay. And so the weeks following that, did his drug abuse stay the same? Did it get worse?
I would say it got worse after that, because like I said, that's when he started to have a lot more problems with helping us pay bills and everything, and it was maybe 2-3 months after that. No, might have been a little more than 3 months after that was when he had to move in with his mom and everything, because he couldn't pay the bills.
All right. Have you ever seen Brad be violent?
Brad, no.
No?
No.
What? I mean, would you say he was capable of anything on heroin?
I mean, possibly, but I mean, Brad's very squeamish even around blood and all that, so like, it's hard for me to say that he would be violent and sorts of abusive or anything like that. I know if he got angry, he would obviously use cuss words and everything like most people would use if they're very upset. But as far as like violence, I wouldn't say so, because anytime we were around a group of friends and a couple of we were getting violent, he would either try and stop it or he would just walk away.
Okay. All right. Anything else strange, weird, odd that you can think of during that time frame? Big thing that changed with him is the heroin use.
Yes.
Okay, after. Okay. And did he mention that Katelyn had done anything besides pot?
No. Like I said, I only met Katelyn once, but from what I picked up from all that, I figured she was only smoking pot.
Yes, if you're wondering, he refers to the same Ben that Brad claims to have met after he left Katelyn's house. Ben told me he went straight home from work. Ben's mom was under that same impression. So, Ben was at Brad's house with roommate 1 and 2 while Brad was at Katelyn's house. Everybody got that? The overdose comment roommate 2 mentions is somewhat interesting, especially since Brad was back on heroin. Here's something interesting. John Carter told Brad not to tell the police about the stalker. This was confirmed through text messages. If the police had already looked into the stalker, what would it hurt to mention the stalker again? The police would have a reason to go further into investigating this person. And yes, I found out the stalker they were talking about at that time was Christopher. Roommate number 2 said something very interesting after I turned the recorder off. So, I turned the recorder back on and asked him to repeat it.
I said that I couldn't see him being violent over it, but if there was an overdose, I could see him freaking out and possibly helping whoever was with him at the time try and cover it up to make sure that no one that was involved with it was part of any kind of, I guess, police authority type deal.
Okay, so you can see him, if it happened, freaking out and covering it up instead of calling the ambulance.
It was how he behaved on heroin. He was extremely jumpy, so I could see something like that occurring. Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure he probably wouldn't talk to anybody about that except the person. Okay.
Probably just the ones that were there. He even brought it up again. Like I said, when he came by, or when the next time I seen him the next day, and he was talking about Katie's disappearance to me, and he didn't mention anything of that fact.
Okay. What did he think happened back then?
I'm not. He never really gave like any ideas what he thought might have happened. The only thing he really said was that whole stalker business we talked about earlier.
Okay. All right, and he said John Carter told him not to bring it up.
Yeah, he said he talked to John about it, and he told him to not bring it up to any of the police or anything because he's already been looked into and checked at, and everything was fine on that end of it.
Okay. All right.
There was a group of Allie Markham's friends, including 3 boys, that all went to the Sacred Heart Festival together on Friday night, August 12th, 2011. Allie, of course, is Katelyn's sister. After the festival, the group went back to the townhouse, but Allie didn't have a key. A couple friends of Allie's explain how they got in.
Well, when you got to the house, what happened? After you piled in the car, you get to the house. Who gets out?
I didn't remember what happened until she had told me that Allie had to go through the window because she forgot her door was locked or something. And I just remember her going through the window and then us going inside for a little bit.
Okay. How did she go through the window?
I'm not even sure if it was on the right side or not of the apartment building, but...
Yeah, if you're facing the back, it was to the right of the door.
Okay, and then...
So the door's here and it's to the right?
Yes, like right next to it.
Okay. Was it a kitchen?
I think
kind of
so,
like, it was like a half dining room, half kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, who was there when she did that?
All the friends were watching Allie do that, so all of them knew that window was unlocked. So there was an unlocked window near the back door. Please go to Gone at 21 Facebook page to see the picture of the back window that was unlocked. When asked if the window was locked after they entered, the 2 friends explained,
If I remembered her locking the window or something, I'd let you know, but I don't remember a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it was so long ago.
Yeah.
When I asked Allie if she locked the window after she entered, she said she couldn't remember. So, what did they do inside the townhouse?
And so you go in, so obviously Katelyn wasn't home because she would have come down and answered the door, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So Allie gets in, everybody sees her get in. And, all right, so you guys go in, and what do you do inside?
I just remember playing with the dog, and then I think we tried to play a board game, but there wasn't the pieces or something weren't there because we didn't end up playing it.
Where was the dog when you went inside?
The dog was in the kitchen area, I think. I think it had a caged off a little bit or something. I'm not sure.
I don't think they caged their dog because she still has that dog.
Well, not caged off, but blocked in the kitchen or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I don't think so. I think they just let the dog run around. So
Okay.
I think he was just right there since he heard us coming in.
Okay. All right. So the dog wasn't upstairs, or the dog wasn't in a bathroom. He was just loose.
Yeah, he was running around.
Maybe he might. That makes more sense. He might have been in the bathroom because I think sometimes they did put him in the bathroom if they were gone for a long period of time.
Okay.
So.
But when we got there, he was running around.
Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. So you go in. Where do you go? What do you do?
I just remember sitting in the living room, and that's really it.
I don't think we were there very long.
Well, we weren't there long at all, I don't think, because I think we went to your house. I'm not sure, though. It's been so long.
Katelyn came home.
Yeah, I can't remember if she came home or if she was leaving. I just remember seeing her just walk across the front room.
I think she walked upstairs because, like you said, if she was there, she'd answer the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she probably...
But Katelyn was seen.
Yes.
To all of you.
Yeah,
Yes.
first time I'd ever seen her.
Okay. And was she nice, friendly?
I didn't even say anything to her.
Okay.
Yes, she's very friendly.
She was friendly.
So, Katelyn came home from the bonfire. Remember Michelle Feist speaking about how Katelyn seemed upset and left the fire really early and didn't say bye to anyone? John dropped her off, and she went inside the townhouse, and Allie and her friends were there. This was the friend seeing Katelyn coming in from that event. So, the police must have spoken to these friends of Allie's since they were at the townhouse approximately 24 hours before Katelyn was last seen alive. Right?
Nobody talked to us. Yeah, because, I mean, the people that were there the night before, that's kind of...
Okay. The police has never?
No.
Nobody's ever said anything to us,
Allie
ever.
told me that the investigator was probably going to talk to me, and I never got a call from anybody.
Never.
Yeah.
The teen boys were driving at that time. In fact, one of these boys drove to the townhouse from the festival. So, could a 16-year-old boy with a driver's license do this kind of thing? Well, of course it's a possibility. I'm not saying these boys had anything to do with Katelyn's death. I'm just saying that they should have, at minimum, been interviewed because they were there in the townhouse shortly before Katelyn went missing. Wait a second. I have a clip of an interview with Chief Dickey of the Fairfield Police Department talking about the FPD's stellar performance on the Markham case and how other agencies concur that Fairfield has done everything modern police investigative techniques require.
But I think every agency that has looked at this case and has reviewed it with us demonstrate that we have done everything that modern police investigative techniques require.
Chief Dickey, did those other agencies know your department didn't interview 4 people at Katelyn's townhouse that watched Katelyn's sister go through an unlocked window to get in? I believe interviewing is a modern police investigative technique. The male friend of Allie's that you heard in this interview was polygraphed, and he passed with flying colors, just so you know. Another male that was there that night, I have spoken to over the phone. He was not available for a face-to-face interview when I was there in December of 2015. He works at a company that is very busy during the Christmas season. I do plan on speaking to him, and I also plan on asking him to take a polygraph as well. The third male has not returned my calls, and there's a question to whether he was even there or not. The last day I was in Ohio on this trip, I was involved in a press conference with David Markham and Tina Barrett, David Markham's attorney. At the press conference, we asked Butler County Sheriff's Office to take over the investigation. The Butler Sheriff did say he would have his investigators look into the case and assist with the investigation, but not take the case over from the Fairfield Police Department. Possible evidence was also discussed. That was Brad Von Bargen's car, but I didn't reveal what it was or who the owner of it was because I had not been informed that all the samples had been processed and didn't know at the time if they were able to extract DNA from any of the samples sent to the lab. The day after, I was on my way back to Florida. 5 days before Christmas, I arrived. Next time on Gone at 21, I received some amazing evidence that will give me a better understanding of the actual timeline. Timelines are very important. And I prepare for my last trip to Ohio with a camera crew. Please like and subscribe. If you're listening in iTunes, please rate and review. This helps new listeners find the podcast. You also can check out the Gone at 21 Facebook page. You will see a GoFundMe link pinned to the top of the wall. If you would like to help support this podcast, please click the link and any amount you are willing to donate will be greatly appreciated. Of course, I am looking into another option to this donation link, so please listen for that option in future episodes. Until next time, I'm Jay Ryan. Take care.